What is going on today, guys? I'm Zenon and welcome back to another video. Just before we get into this video, please subscribe if you are new and remember to smash that like button. But into the video. So at the end of last year, roughly around the time when Project Cars 2 and Forza Motorsport 7 was coming out, I made a video on the Logitech G920 wheel. So I get a lot of comments on that video, people asking about the wheel and is it compatible with certain games and stuff. So I got one the other day and I was like, you know what, that's a little bit outdated. That video is probably very old and I have a very squeaky voice. So I wanted to talk about the Logitech G920 wheel as overall, as having it for a long time, and the Playseat Alcantara, I think it's called. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the seats and the wheel and how they've held up over the past 6 months. So this is my new setup that I haven't shown anyone since I moved at the start of this year. But yeah, and I haven't made a video on the Playseat since when I got it at Christmas. So yeah, I'll just overview everything that I have. So starting off with the wheel, we have the Logitech G920 wheel with the Logitech shifter and Logitech 3-pedal pedals. Then going over to the Playseat, we have the Playseat with the added feature of the carpet, the shift holder, and if you can see here, the seat slider. The Playseat is one of the more expensive seats if you're thinking about getting into sim racing. But yeah, it's a really good quality seat. If you're getting this seat, the one thing I have to say is, please get the carpet. The carpet helps out so much, especially when you're on the wood floor, because it does scratch up, the metal does scratch up the wood if you don't have the carpet. And most likely, if you guys want to be more realistic and use a manual like I do, it'd be good to get the shifter holder. But the seat slider is something I guess I like, because if you have friends over that are different heights and stuff, they can change the seat to be able to use it. And you know, if my dad sometimes uses it, so he can move the seat further back for him. Now time for the long overview of how this seat and the carpet and the holder have handled over the past 6 months. So we are starting off with the overall seat. The overall seat is really good. It's a really good quality, feels just like a racing seat. It's that racing seat fabric. It does come in a leather one as well if you want the leather one. But when I got mine, I got it in this racing seat fabric, which I forget what it's called. There's lots of different play seats that you can get, but the one I have is kind of special. It does have this feature where this cushion does come off, as well as if you undo the back, which you won't be able to see that well, but when you undo the back, you can lift it down for easy storage. And it makes it easy when you're in small environments where you pack it up after you use it. But I'll leave mine up. About some negatives and some positives about the seat. So overall, the seat does look really good. Looks really realistic. I really like the part where the seat belts come through. I would get seat belts if they weren't so expensive and I had somewhere to hook them onto. But it's cool just having that seat belt bit there. Another thing I like is the Playseat embroidered across the top and on the back, as well as the stitching down here is really nice as well. And these leather bits which kind of keep the seat nice and hard when you sit on it. Some problems I do have with the seat is there is a metal bar somewhere in here. I think it's about here-ish. And when you do sit in it, especially for me, I'm not sure if it's just my height or something like that, but when you do sit in it, the metal bar really catches onto your back, and it sometimes can hurt. The only other real problem with this is if I have a seat in it, it's really creaky and loud, and it doesn't really help at nighttime where you're trying to do a bit of sim racing at night and you don't want to wake anyone up. But yeah, just you can tell by me moving around, it's very loud. And when you move the steering wheel a lot too, the stand does creak a lot, but it's mainly getting in and out of the seat. So if we now move on to the shifter, well, the shifter stand, not the shifter, because we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, the shifter stand I think is about $50, $60, maybe $70. When I got the seat, and yeah, it's really sturdy underneath. I'm sorry, my hand got in the way there, but it's really sturdy underneath. There's a lot of support under here, and yeah, it works really well. It can also be changed around, so if you are in a country that drives on the left-hand side of the road, you can switch it over to this side as well. And that just simply means when you put it together, you just flip this the other way and face it the other way, and that's pretty much it. I've already talked about the carpet a little bit more, but one thing I do like about it, it's a bit like the seat, how it has these Playseat logos on here as well. It just kind of makes it just gives it a really cool little feature, and it just makes it look a little bit better and than just if it was all black. But I already talked about the carpet. Underneath, it is just creepy like that. Yeah, but it does help out so much being on this wood floor. It doesn't scratch it up in any way. The frame and the seat slider. So underneath, it matches up pretty well. The frame is reasonably sturdy once you put it together. I do find when I move the steering wheel a bit, you can see it does wiggle a little bit, but it's not noticeable that much. As well as down here, the frame all down here is really nice, and Playseat have done a good job when they were making this and making all the parts fit together properly. One thing though, down here you can see I've scratched it up a lot, and that was before, I think just from being the wear and tear of using this seat, this part got really loose, and one time I went to step on the brake and the whole seat went forward all the way down to there. So I have a huge big scratch along there, which I think I can just get pen or something and make it all black again. Now down to the pedals. Underneath, the pedal stand is pretty good. There is one problem that I talked about in my other video about this pedal being really hard, and it's still really hard. It has been worn a little bit, so it's not as hard anymore. But when you put down that brake, as you can see, the frame is like on the end of the frame here. It's not that sturdy where when you slam on the brakes, you feel this whole pedal move forward a bit. But I mean, it's all right, but you do notice it a lot. Now back to the back seat stand a bit. One thing I do like is the Playseat logo again, along the bottom, and the slider. So the slider is really good. I mean, it's not as smooth as in a car. It does take some effort to pick it up. You really have to, and sometimes it gets jammed as well, but you really have to put a lot of effort into picking it up. But it works out so well when you are, sometimes when I just want to use my seat for not racing and I don't want to be right up close to the wheel, it's really good to just sit further back using the slider. Another problem I had with the frame was if I hop back in the seat and slide it forward, when I have it forward into the position where I'll be for racing, this part here that holds the wheel, it can be a little bit annoying, mainly when I'm on the gas and I'm shifting and then change over to brake, it can get in the way of my foot sometimes, makes it a little bit hard. But the main problem is when I'm sitting in the seat, my knees are my legs are a little bit too long, so my knees hit the top here, which sometimes really hurts when I bang it. But I can't do anything about it because I either have my knees banging on it, or if you change this, you can change this to make it go further up. But when you do that, the wheel comes closer to me, so then it means that I'm up on the wheel like this instead of nice and this distance. So there's a problem with my arm distance. So I kind of have to deal with my knees being real bumped around, and it doesn't help as well having the seat further back, because then it just means that I don't have very good posture when I'm sitting in the seat. So now we get on to the wheel, the Logitech. It has held up really well, which I'm surprised. And I've said it once in my other video, but I'll say it again. This is one of the best wheels that I've tried. It's not as good as some of the other wheels that I've tried. Mainly, the only one that's better than this is the Thrustmaster one that's over $1,000 and has the switchable rims and stuff, and that's really expensive. I think Slaptrain has one, and I have tried a Fantech one, but it was about the same as this. So a couple of things that I want to touch up on that I said in the last video. These buttons here, where I said that they felt really like you could pull them off. That has not been the case. I haven't played a single game where they use these, because I feel like these don't work. Even when you set them up onto the game, they still don't work. Another thing is these paddles, the shifted paddles. I did say that you kind of feel like you're going to get cut by the really sharp metal, and I have cut myself on them, but it takes a lot of effort to, cut yourself. I think when I was drifting, 100 force feedback and the wheel came snapping back, and I think I just cut my hand on it. The buttons have been all good. Sometimes when you're switching vehicles or trying to go up and down, sometimes when you go closer to the middle when you press, instead of it going this way to the right, if you press in the middle, it might go up or to the left or something like that. But you just got to make sure when you press, you're on the outside. These buttons in the middle, I was going to feel like they were going to come off too. That's not the case. They are fairly strong in there. And these buttons here, they feel just like any other Xbox controller buttons. Okay, now on to the shifter. So the Logitech shifter, I think you can pick it up for around $80. And when I first got it, I was like, it feels really cheaped out. I mean, look, that just comes off. Sometimes that pops off. It felt really cheap compared to the wheel. But it hasn't been too bad. There is one main problem that I face most times when I'm driving manual cars, and that is if you go from being in first to second, to third, and then you go down to fourth, you come to fifth, and sometimes it goes back into third, because in here there's the parts where the different slots for different gears, and sometimes when you go to put it in that slot, you hit the slot and you come straight up. So it feels really hard to get into gear 5. And then when I'm in gear 5, if I'm going into gear 6, sometimes it's like I put it into gear 6 and I go straight in, like jam it into gear 4 instead of going into gear 6. And the same thing coming from 5 to 4, sometimes I accidentally bring it into 6 too. You kind of have to work on really being soft with it where you want to go, because when you're hard like this, that's when you start making mistakes. If you're using it, you just got to make sure that you be soft when you're shifting. Overall, it's really good. I mean, the cord doesn't get in the way too much. That's mainly one thing that I have done. All the cords are cable tied to the frames, so they're not going to get in your way when you're racing. But yeah, overall it's pretty good. It is really sturdy when it's stuck to this shifter. Sometimes I feel like the shifter is a little bit too low from the wheel, but you kind of get used to it. But when you're in a normal car, it's usually about where my hand is, but it's a little bit lower, which is alright with me. Before I go on to the pedals, there's one thing I forgot to mention about the seat, and that is when you get it, it takes a fair few hours to put together. So I think you can buy them and put together, and I don't know, maybe the shop that you get it from might put it together for you. But with mine, I had to put it together in boxes, and it took a fair bit of time. It sometimes gets confusing, especially with putting in the seat sliders, how they don't go in properly. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get set up with it. It's not something that you can just unbox and hope to race in the next 15 minutes. It's something that's going to take an hour or 2 hours. I think we got ours done in 2 hours and 30, and you are going to need some tools with it. Playseat are really good with giving you all the tools you need for it, but it's good to have some tools that are a little bit better than the ones they give you. It makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, another thing, so you don't make the mistake like I do, don't tighten up everything super tight, but just test it out first and make sure it's everything that you want. If there's any changes that need to be made, then you can change them and then tighten it up. Okay, well, let's now move on to the pedals. So if we come down, pedals were one of the major things or problems I had with the wheel in my last video, and that's not the gas and the clutch, that's just mainly the brake being a really annoying brake. In the brake there is a I think rubber pad block thing, and it makes it really firm to brake. But as you can see with the clutch is pretty good, and so is the gas. I mean, the clutch is a little bit harder than the gas, but that's pretty realistic. As you can see, I just now realized this. These two have blocks in them, and this one doesn't. So this one, the gas sits a lot further in front, and I thought that was just from wear, but now looking at it, it's actually, there's a block missing on this one, as there's a block on that one. That's probably something to do with the realism of it. But yeah, this whole setup, these pedals are really good. The only problem is just that one brake pedal, and I mean, you get used to it. I mean, you feel it a bit with the frame moving so much, but it's overall really good. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Playseat and the Logitech wheel. I honestly recommend these two, the wheel and the Playseat, and they do come together as a pack from Logitech if you want, or you can buy them separately, it's up to you. But all the wheels that I've tried, this one is the best wheel. A lot of other wheels, it doesn't feel as smooth, I'd say, as this one. And I mean, the pedals don't feel too realistic like this one. I mean, that brake is more realistic than the Thrustmaster one, where you can just tap it a little bit because it's really, really soft. And I would recommend this seat. I mean, I've sat in a lot of different seats at a lot of different events, and this is one of the best ones I've sat with ones that have a screen up close, which I don't have. But yeah, it's just a really good feeling seat, and it will last a long time as well. So people did have some questions about if the wheel was compatible with lots of games, and all ones that are on the Xbox, because I have the Logitech G920, which is the Xbox and PC wheel, but you can also get the PS4 one, which has got like a different name. It's like Logitech G95 or something like that. I'm not completely sure on it. And I think it also does PC as well. But yeah, all Xbox games, racing games obviously, are mostly compatible. If you're going to buy a game and you know you have this wheel, or you're going to buy this wheel and you want to know if it's compatible for a game you want to play it on, just look it up on Google and they'll usually tell you. Or there might be another YouTube video that tells you that it's compatible. With the PC, if you're using this wheel for PC, I use it on my Dell gaming laptop, as you can see it over there. And what I do is I get a HDMI cord, hook it up to the TV, and I know that's not the best TV, but it's all I have. But it's not that big, but you can have a big one and probably make it more realistic. But yeah, I hook it up there and I play using the HDMI. I just hook this wheel into the USB cable, and when you have it on the computer, there's a lot more stuff you can do. There's a lot of Logitech, I think an application that allows you to change settings on this, and yeah, you can really fiddle around with settings and stuff. But I do play BeamNG Drive and Assetto Corsa. Assetto Corsa works really well on it, and so does it works well on BeamNG Drive too. Sometimes I feel like the force feedback on BeamNG Drive isn't the greatest with this wheel, as if you are drifting or you're in a slide and you're coming from this side and you trying to rip it back really fast to the other direction, it kind of like, it grinds. It's like a bit like grinding gears. It goes all the way back around. But it for mine so far, you kind of just have to deal with it, and it hasn't done anything to the wheel. Like, there's nothing broken, and I think it's just one thing with the game. But there's probably settings I can mess around to stop that. I'm just not that smart with settings, and I don't want to mess anything up while using my wheel. So yeah. So yeah, that's all for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps some people that are thinking about buying the wheel and the seat, or you just want to have a look at the options that you can have when getting a sim racing setup. I know mine isn't the best. It's not like the people that do iRacing, which I hope to do soon. Maybe I might make videos on it if you enjoy that. But it's not as good as them, where they have huge big screens and $1,000, $2,000 wheels, and it's like a $3,000 setup. Yeah, mine isn't that, but it isn't like some people where they just have the wheel on a desk. So I guess I'm lucky with that. I get to have a seat and I get to have room to have a seat. And for some people, they really can't do that with either money or room, or yeah, they just can't do it. So I'm very thankful to be able to have the wheel and the seat. But yeah, if any of you guys are kind of curious about this wheel, or how the seat handles and how it's like having the seat, I mean, I don't just use it for sim racing. I use it for everything video gaming when I'm not racing. I just sit in the seat. It's just a really good seat to sit in. And yeah, it's really comfortable except for that bar. But depending on who you are and how tall you are and stuff, the bar isn't really going to affect it. But yeah, overall, it's a really good seat. I mean, there is some flaws, but it's the wheel and the seat are overall better than the ones that I've tried. So if you're thinking about getting this seat or this wheel, it might be good to go somewhere like a gaming store like I did, and just sit in the seat or try it out, and just feel if it suits you, and if it does, then there you go, there's a wheel. So I'm going to leave you with, I don't know, a couple minutes of gameplay footage of me using the wheel. And, but yeah, until next video, peace out.